Do you think I'm a moron? Do you think I don't have a mind for I can't make, what the hell is America all about? You just said I'm a moron. That's what you just said to half of America. Hey, America, you're a moron. You can't think for yourself. That's why you need me, because I went to this elitist university called whatever, Columbia. I don't know where Rachel went to. And I know what's best for you.
Patrick Bet-David recently had a guest on his show who came in with some typical woke views, but he wasn't ready for what happened next. He probably thought it would be a routine interview. It wasn't. Patrick isn't your average host. He's sharp, well-prepared, and knows how to challenge ideas that don't hold up. During the conversation, he calmly and clearly broke down the guest's arguments, point by point. Let's just say, it didn't go well for the guest. It wouldn't be surprising if he takes a long break from public interviews after that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And let's get into the details.
It should be addressed in good faith by people who have some idea about how to determine that. I don't know the source of COVID.
Yeah, but Jeff,
I mean, that's that to me.
Asking,
but that these questions that become politicized, it seems ridiculous to me to have political debates about something that is a scientific question that people should address. And I'm agreeing that there should be investigations of all that stuff.
By the way, Brett Baer, did you see the interview with Trump?
Yes, I saw excerpts.
Did you see? Did you think he did a good job?
No.
Oh,
you mean Brett Baer?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Brett Baer did a very good job.
I agree. I think Brett Baer did a great job.
job.
And you know how he said, this person got fired. That person got fired. This person got fired. Why do you not have a good, hire? So he asked a tough question. And then, hey, why is it that you're keeping on to it? They were trying to get it from you. Well, I wanted to first make sure. Okay. So guess what? People want to know. Great. But people want to also know with the Corvette back and with the notes, what you had there's with Biden. People want to know.
The conversation really took off when the guest questioned why anyone even cares about where COVID came from. Seriously, why wouldn't we care? At the start of the pandemic, the official story was that the virus came from a wet market in Wuhan, supposedly jumping from an animal to humans. But over time, new information began to surface, hinting at something more troubling, a possible lab leak. Rather than investigate, the Biden administration was quick to dismiss the lab theory, calling it a conspiracy. But now, years later, the evidence has piled up, and it's getting harder to ignore. Many signs point to the virus possibly escaping from a lab in Wuhan, one that was receiving U.S. funding. If that's true, it raises serious questions. COVID devastated the U.S. economy, took countless lives, and reshaped daily life. So yes, people have every right and reason to demand real answers about where this virus actually came from, and that's when the discussion really got interesting.
Biden. Yeah,
all I'm saying to you is people want to know. We want to know what's behind the truth. The comment about the fact that I'm not an epidemiologist, I'm not the expert, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm totally get it. The element of that approach, when you say something like, well, you're not the expert in this and you're not the expert in that, there is a very clear, pompous, elitist message behind that. Just like this week when MSNBC and CNN. Well, we know the president is talking right now, Jake Tapper and Rachel Maddow, we know the president is talking, but we are not going to let him have any airtime, and we're going to update you on whatever he says that's necessary because we know he's going to tell lies. I'm sorry. Do you think I'm a moron? Do you think I don't have a mind for I can't make, what the hell is America all about? You just said I'm a moron.
You can really see Patrick Bet-David getting fired up at this point. And honestly, who can blame him? A lot of us are just plain tired of being told to stay quiet because we're not experts. Since when does using common sense require a degree? People know when something doesn't add up, and they are tired of being dismissed by so-called elites who act like they have a monopoly on truth. We've seen this play out too many times. Major networks like MSNBC and CNN have spent years trying to shape how we think, telling us what's true, what's false, and what we're allowed to question. But that approach doesn't work anymore. People are paying attention. They are asking real questions and pushing back when something feels off. Patrick didn't say anything outrageous. He just said what millions of people are already thinking. We're done being treated like we can't think for ourselves.
You just said to half of America, hey, America, you're a moron. You can't think for yourself. That's why you need me, because I went to this elitist university called whatever, Columbia. I don't know where Rachel went to. And I know what's best for you. Guess what? I don't like that. That's why I left Iran. There's a reason why we don't live in Iran for 10 years. 10 years old when I lived in Iran, we went to Germany at a refugee camp for 2 years. Then we came to America because I want me to make the stupid decision on who I vote for, not you. Let me make the stupid decision of voting for Biden or Trump. There's a part of that where when we say, I'm not the expert, you're not this, well, no, you're a smart guy. That's why you're here. You're not a regular schlep off the street that doesn't know what. You've been involved in a lot of different things I've investigated. All I'm saying is for us to take the approach as well to say, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have this. You don't know what you're talking about. No, we're here because we don't know everything, but we're here to question things and say, this kind of sounds a little fishy. Don't you want to know about it? I do. Well, no, let's just live in the future. Forget about the past. No, I don't want.
This is exactly what makes America such a remarkable country. The freedom to think for ourselves. Independent thought isn't just a nice idea here, it's a core part of who we are as a nation. That kind of liberty isn't guaranteed everywhere in the world, which is why it matters so much. So when media figures like Rachel Maddow talk down to the public with their moral lectures, it's no surprise people are tuning them out. They've made their fair share of poor judgments too. Take the border crisis, for example. When Kamala Harris was put in charge, things didn't improve. If anything, the situation grew even more chaotic. We've all seen the confusing speeches, the awkward moments, and the empty confidence that didn't fool anyone. Add to that the years of woke policies forced on Americans, many of which most people would rather leave behind. In the end, what keeps this country strong isn't political spin or elite opinions. It's the everyday people who still value critical thinking and aren't afraid to ask questions.
We don't have, tests to determine whether, you're entitled to express an opinion on a subject. Well, the only point I was making was, there are certain scientific questions, like the source of COVID, that it really does require some considerable expertise in the subject in order to have a reasonable opinion about it. That's the only point I was making. I'm not saying that, what is more than legitimate is you or Vinny or anybody saying, we need an investigation.
Wait a minute. Is this guy seriously saying we need a science degree just to question where COVID came from? Come on. Since when do you need a PhD in virology to ask basic, common-sense questions about the origins of a global pandemic? That's the whole point of open discussion. Regular people have every right to ask questions, challenge the official story, and expect real answers. You don't have to be a scientist to notice when something doesn't add up. And in this case, it clearly doesn't. Patrick Bet-David exposed the holes in the guest's argument right there on the spot. It was clear, it was sharp, and it was undeniable. But instead of owning up to it or even just pausing to rethink his position, the guest doubled down. His response wasn't just weak, it was uncomfortable to watch. The harder he tried to defend his stance, the worse it got. Patrick didn't just debate him, he completely shut him down.
But the ultimate question of what the source of COVID is, I want to rely on people who know something.
And who's leading that investigation?
Yeah, exactly.
Who is? I don't know.
That's my fucking point.
That brings up another key question. Who's actually in charge of investigating where COVID came from? Because if past experience tells us anything, the so-called experts leading the charge haven't exactly earned our trust. Just think back to the Fauci era. When Americans put their faith in his guidance, we got a flood of mixed messages, half-truths, and shifting narratives. One day masks were essential, the next they weren't. The lab leak theory was dismissed as conspiracy until mounting evidence forced a second look. That confusion didn't come out of nowhere. It came from officials trying to control the story, not share the facts. Things got so politically charged that President Biden seemed more focused on avoiding backlash, while Trump's constant criticism of Fauci practically gave the man a pass. And now, we're supposed to trust the same circle of experts to get to the bottom of COVID's origins? Sorry, but that's a hard sell. The American people deserve honesty, transparency, and real accountability.
And I go
They'll investigate laptops and leaks and this and that.
No.
But something that shut down the world for 2.5 years, no investigate. What is happening?
Adam, China runs, bro. If China could fly spy balloons over our entire country, over nuke bases, and nothing happens, nobody's investigating shit. But here's my thing.
Which is absurd.
No, but here's my thing, Jeff. And I'm not an expert. Nobody in here knows shit about epidemiology, right?
Right.
But guess what? It doesn't help when the experts were trying to talk and the government was silencing them. When Peter McCullough was trying to talk, when Robert Malone was trying to talk, they banned them on YouTube. They took them off Twitter. How do we even have a chance? How am I supposed to learn from the experts when they were shut down, and now it's years later, and now we're like, oh, it's old news?
At the end of the day, it comes down to this. Many on the left only trust the science when it supports their own views. There's a clear pattern. Experts are celebrated when they echo the approved narrative, but the moment someone presents evidence or conclusions that challenge it, they are suddenly labeled a conspiracy theorist, an extremist, or even a threat. And instead of open debate, we get censorship. Cancel culture kicks in, not to protect truth, but to protect control. Because here's the reality. For some, this was never really about truth. It's about power. Controlling the narrative means shaping how people think, what they believe, and ultimately, how they behave. That's why dissenting voices, even from credible experts, are pushed aside, and alternative viewpoints are shut down. It's not about transparency. It's about keeping one version of the story alive and silencing the rest.
Accountability. And that's why, Pat, the thing with Joe Rogan. He wants to have that debate with the bring a scientist.
Yeah, Dr. Peter Motel, you following that story?
I am following.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I mean, I actually am sympathetic. You know, if you want to have a scientific debate, have two scientists debate it, not Joe Rogan against some scientist.
He doesn't want to do that either, though.
RFK.
But Hotez doesn't even want to debate two expert scientists that are on the opposing side. I understand the argument you're saying, like, why should he debate RFK? RFK is not fine. Okay, that's a reasonable argument.
Let's be real. Most people have common sense. And so does Joe Rogan. He doesn't need a PhD in epidemiology to tell when someone's being honest and when they are pushing an agenda. That's what makes Rogan so effective. He's not claiming to be the expert, he's just giving experts a space to speak. His strength lies in the format. He invites voices from both sides, lets them present their arguments, and trusts the audience to decide what makes sense. No spin, no censorship, just open, honest conversation. It's a simple idea, but it's also incredibly powerful. And that's exactly why it makes some folks on the left so uncomfortable. The effort to silence conservative or non-mainstream experts feels less like confidence in the truth, and more like an attempt to keep certain viewpoints from ever being heard. Because here's the question. If the facts are really on their side, why are they so afraid of a fair debate?
That's fine. I'm not in that involved. I just... having people who know something about it should debate, but you know, I shouldn't debate.
No, of course. Well, Jeffrey, why do you think?
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah,
America wants to see this debate, conversation, dialogue for sure. Whether it's RFK or Malone or McCullough, and then versus a Fauci or Dr. Hotep, fill in the blank. In your non-expert legal opinion, why do you think this debate has not happened? Why has it not occurred yet here in America?
Well, it is happening. I mean, look, we're having this conversation.
No. But none of us are experts. I'm talking experts.
There are scientific papers being published all the time about COVID.
That is a debate. No, it's not.
A debate.
Yeah, how many scientific papers have you read recently?
I haven't read it, but I mean,
nobody's reading that.
The debate isn't happening for one simple reason. Many so-called experts on the left are afraid of being challenged. They know that if their claims faced a fair, open discussion, their carefully crafted stories might fall apart. Sure, they hide behind complicated research papers full of technical terms that might impress other experts, but it doesn't help everyday Americans. Most people don't have the time or training to dig through dense studies and figure out what's real and what's been twisted. And that's the point. By keeping the conversation locked away in academic circles, they hold on to control. But the truth doesn't need to be buried in footnotes or scientific jargon. What we need is a real, honest public debate, where both sides lay out their arguments clearly and plainly. Let the experts go head-to-head, using language everyone can understand. Then, let Americans decide for themselves which side holds up under the spotlight.
People want to visualize and see
you're
debate
saying
just like
doctors debating with a camera on. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I mean, yeah, like a debate.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
not scientific papers.
Fauci and Malone.
Not scientific papers.
I think you will. There will be, given the level of interest in it, there will be plenty more discussion on this subject among people who know what they're talking.
At the end of the day, what we saw on Patrick Bet-David's show is about more than just one debate. It's a bigger battle, truth versus narrative. Americans are tired of being talked down to by so-called experts and elitist media voices who act like they're the only ones with all the answers. We've seen how that kind of blind trust in people like Fauci or networks like CNN and MSNBC leads to confusion, cover-ups, and mixed messages. The left has gotten very good at controlling information by canceling dissent, labeling anyone who disagrees, and silencing experts who don't follow the party line. But here's the truth. You don't need a fancy degree to know when something doesn't make sense. People want open debates, not lectures. They want transparency, not censorship. That's why platforms like Joe Rogan's and Patrick Bet-David's are so powerful. They give space for all voices to be heard, and that scares those who want to keep control. Because once people see the truth clearly, their carefully crafted narrative falls apart, and with it, their power. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed our honest political commentary, please hit the like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.